Uh, so Shoshen doesn't really sneak off, but just kind of quietly walks away from most of the.
Jingles off a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
jangles off. A very peaceful walk, except for the noise. Um,
exactly.
are you looking to like catch up with them while they're still in sight? Are you gonna try to track them from further away? What are you looking to do?
I was thinking, so like, I assumed they said like, "Hey, come hit us up if you like got if you want to get tested or whatever." Like, all right,
Yes, they had
cool.
said that they were going to be setting up at the ravine.
Okay, yeah. I mean, honestly, she probably just would be like, "Well, they turn off and leave," and everyone's like, "Oh my god." She's just like, "All right, well, I'm just gonna go like, I guess, walk over there. You guys have fun."
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely first told Quail like, "Hey, if I mysteriously vanish, like, that's where I'm going."
Which on that topic, uh, Quail would have offered to go with you if you were, nervous about any potential danger. Like if you thought it would be a dangerous conversation.
I don't. She's not honestly that worried.
Mm,
Mostly from the standpoint of like, she's not particularly trying to like cause problems necessarily. Well,
mm.
we'll see. Well, I don't I don't know, but like a lot less. I don't. I think she's trying to involve as few people as possible with this, just in case something does go wrong. Considering like she doesn't know necessarily what they're exactly capable of, so
Mm-hmm.
like makes more sense to endanger as few people as possible on that front.
Fair enough.
And also, yeah, I was talking about it with Laura earlier, and it was like, yeah, I don't think like even if Nemesis like asked to go, I don't think she would have been like, yeah, you can come. She probably would have been like, now listen, you kind of pulled a knife on Lucius, so you know,
You
I
know.
don't think that's like great. I don't think they have great rapport to start out, so I think that's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, good luck telling a rogue no though.
Yeah, well, they didn't say they would follow in any sense,
No,
so
I know, I know. Uh,
unless unless they told you something like I from what I've heard.
no,
No,
genuinely no.
I've been trusted. Yeah. Well, listen, I wouldn't care if it was like, hey, I'm gonna go sneak. It's like, all right, I've seen your sneak rolls. Go ahead, do your stealth rolls. It'll be funny.
Hell
But
yeah.
it's like, okay, so I'm she is literally the most neutral party to these people at this point. Nemesis pulled the knife on Lucius. Tori is Erlin's cousin, and the reason that they left. Yeah, sorry, I confused the NPC. I'm not great at all of the NPCs' names, so
No, you're
that's the reason why
fine.
there was the confusion there. Because I have to remember who's who for a sec
You're
if it's
good.
not person involving me of my one NPC. We're good on Quail. I've got Quail down. Everyone else, I'm spinning a mental roulette every time.
Fair enough,
Um,
fair enough.
yeah, Tori, cousin of Erland, and they left. Like I'm getting this right, right? I'm just
Yes, yes, you
recapping.
are.
Right, I'm just recap for me also to make sure I understand what happened, like with a recent past before I get into this. Before I'm like stepping into this and making sure I understand, like I'm caught up on what's going on. So Erland left the Faceless to go hang out with Tori, right?
Yes, Tori was leaving the Feywild for the first time ever and
Yeah,
was like, I'm scared to go alone because I don't know this world. And Erlen was like, wow, I'm going to drop literally everything and tell no one and come help you.
yeah. All right. So that might cause some friction between
Yeah,
these people and
yeah.
Tori.
Crazy.
Possibly
Imagine.
problematic. Yeah, you know how it is. Everything with Alice and Havoc. I think Alice possibly would have been another neutral party had she not gone ahead and done that
Oh,
shit.
I don't think Alice would have ever been a neutral party, knowing Megan and Megan's
Yeah,
taste in characters.
you know what?
And I
Well,
say that
neutral in
very
what way?
positively.
Neutral in what way?
Uh, from the get-go,
Yeah.
because when we first tried to run this campaign, Megan knew about
Hmm.
Havoc and stuff. So Megan has been gunning for Havoc for a while, and I don't mean in an enemy way.
Yeah. That's fair. That's why I had to. That's why I had to specify what kind of neutral, not neutral behavior are we
in
talking
a in
about?
a I'm gonna choke you out, but I'm not gonna murder you way. Anyways,
Like in a horny way? Is that what you're saying?
not full horny, but
No, I don't know. That's why I have to specify.
uh, but you head off pretty quick after then. You're still able to catch them before they start doing their rogue and ranger shit and disappear into the woods.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. I have the world's best eyes at this point.
uh, Good luck following a pair of gloomstalkers. Hello.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. That besides that one.
um, but you see the four of them walking together. Can not like a speed walk, but a brisk we have business to do walk. And they kind of are lent together, apparently speaking to each other. Are you attempting to cover up your sounds at all, or are you just strolling?
Well, okay, for one, also, she probably would have just like put all of her shit in her like tent before going after them. Like just kind of like toss that shit. So, like, because this is gonna be like she doesn't want to put out like hostile vibes. So
Mm-hmm.
like pack, sword, all that, leaving that in the camp.
Nice,
We're good.
thanks.
Yeah, I figured I'd just toss you that, so you can just kill me anytime. You know how it is. Um, but like just leaving her stuff there, because like she's not trying to run hands with these people. She's just trying to like talk to them. You know,
Mm.
like I can maybe win a 1-on-1, but like a 4-on-1, nah, I'm not gonna win that in any way. That's not my skill, so
Mm-hmm.
it's fine. I'm not trying to kill people anyway that much, so you know.
Uh,
It's fine.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't think she would really like. I think it's giving off a worse vibes even to try and like sneak up on them. And obviously, it's not like I just don't want to like manifest in their line of sight. Like, hello, it's me.
Mm.
But it's like just kind of like casually walk up and like, well, I guess as casual as she gets, being uh
Yeah, I get
largely
you.
uncomfortable all the time, but like just looking like she doesn't particularly want to be there. But like it's kind of like walk up in a way to not throw out hostile vibes. Like she's not like squaring up, obviously, but it's just kind
Yeah.
of like, "Hey, what's up?
All right.
I saw
Um.
you like 5 minutes ago, but you know what?
Wow,
I'm
crazy.
back."
Spectre notices you first. She had been kind of, turned, speaking to Havoc, and seemed to notice you out of the corner of her eye, and she kind of pauses and gestures for the others too as well. And they all stop and wait for you to catch up. um, and Havoc kind of tilts her head slowly. Hey, wasn't expecting to see any of you so soon.
Well, yes. It's a bit easier to talk to people when there aren't um, everyone else there because I understand there's a bit of bad blood at large between your whole group and most of everyone else here.
No, water under the bridge, at least on the part of some people. But
Yes, I believe
Shoshen,
that some
right?
people.
What can I do for you?
Yeah. I had a few questions in regards to everything you're trying to do here, mostly.
Right. Note to you, Ned, you never introduced yourself to Havoc once.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know how it is sometimes.
truly.
listen, I mean, she's not a stranger to like people just like knowing shit and just
Exactly.
like a lot of stuff going on. So it's not really like that much of a surprise to her. Like it's like kind of a whatever thing at this point. Like her weirdness, like the amount of things it takes to like be like, huh, that's weird, is probably pretty high at this point, I want to say. Like it's just kind of like, oh, something happens. She's like, you know what? Another day. Like I'm sure that's pretty easy to rationalize.
Hell
But
yeah.
like, yeah, I guess noted from the
It's-
standpoint of, interesting. But also like, that's not like she's not losing sleep over that one. It's like,
yeah. It's not like
there's a
it's
lot of shit.
rude.
Well, I mean, it's more like there's a lot of shit out there that would probably be able to like, yo, this person's name is whatever, or like they could have done research. Like
Exactly.
it's not riveting that she knows her name, but like,
But
yeah.
she gives you a little, chin nod. Ask away.
Um, I wanted to ask what all you had before with the crystals, like in the cave that you found. Obviously, you've got experience with those, and I don't think any of us have really seen much of it before.
You're asking how many we've taken care of before, or how many crystals we had?
Um, I suppose how many, well, not even in a really numerical sense, more just like uh, how did you get into all this kind of thing?
I had briefly mentioned it back at your settlement, but I'm happy to go over it again or in more detail. Also, because I know Nedja wasn't always there.
Yeah, I was kind of in and out
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like
You're all good.
blasted from work, so my memory's not 110%.
No,
Like
no,
I
no, you're
got like I
fine.
think a good amount.
You're fine.
Sorry, my bad.
No,
Part of this is also
you're
like
literally fine.
me recapping for myself to make sure I'm like good on everything there. So,
She kind of like seems to think about the best place to start for a moment, and then starts slow. When myself and Burst escaped from the Iron Conscription, the first time, we were on the run, and the first piece of civilization that we stumbled across that wasn't someplace crawling with Iron Conscription was a little village that had been plagued very, very quickly by a fault that appeared seemingly out of nowhere. A planar fault, to be clear. And the village had been taken very swiftly, from what we could tell of those few people who could still talk, and a letter is half written around the place. It had been less than a week. It was essentially a ghost town. We, as Burst and myself, were being affected within 15 minutes of entering the town limits. And because we were hiding from the Iron Conscription, and the Iron Conscription was giving the place a wide berth, we tried to hide there as much as possible. We would try to leave the village to stave it off and then come back in when the Iron Conscription got close. So both of us got a healthy dose. But Burst here, and Havoc kind of like inclines her head towards Burst, who seems to like preen a bit at the oncoming praise, is rather adept with the arcane and managed to figure out a rather slapdash, patchwork way to at least temporarily close the planar fault, or at least seal it, so that we would no longer be falling apart, and she had a bit more time to study it and actually properly start work towards figuring out how to seal the rifts, like how we do now. So we both stumbled into it sort of by chance. And I personally didn't have anything in mind beyond staying away from the Iron Conscription. Burst, on the other hand, wanted to figure out a way to go home. She's from the fire plane.
Yeah.
So it worked out for her. And she was my best friend. And it was something that had personally affected me. And our initial hope was maybe to also find a way to cure ourselves. But after figuring out that that wasn't possible, that we were too far gone, we resigned ourselves to keeping it from happening as little as possible, to stopping it whenever we came across it again.
I see. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you were more or less able to close it, and I assume such has been refined in the
Yes.
way of your means of closing these rifts since then.
We were, after that first village, we found, I believe it was 2 more, and we were, not villages, planar rifts, to be clear.
Yes.
We found 2 more, and Burst refined her wards even more and was able to close those, or at least slow them significantly enough to evacuate people in the area before we could figure out how to harvest them and keep them under control. And then we were recaptured by the conscription. They tried to put us back into their system because they believed maybe longer in it would instill more loyalty. But apparently, I'm not one to believe in fate, but apparently fate had different ideas. Since a fault line formed right in the barracks. And wouldn't you know it, we were the only 2 who knew how to handle it. So we proved ourselves useful to the conscription and bargained our way to freedom. And now they let us do what we want as long as we handle the faults for them.
So the necklaces were developed by...
Burst.
Yes.
I've just realized, out of character, I've been saying Burst this entire time. She's wearing her mask, so Havoc would be calling her Fierce. But you guys have met her without the mask, so you know it's Burst. But
okay.
As a note, Havoc has actually been calling her Fierce this entire time. I'm a fool.
No, you're good. I am bad enough at names that I just didn't notice. So
No, you're fine. It's not like it was a secret either. I had straight up told you guys when she showed up, yeah, this is Burst, that caster you guys had met with in the other village.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I feel like it's pretty easy to be like,
Yeah, she had
the same.
Yeah, she'd had the mask literally strapped to her thigh when you guys first met her. So
the paper thin disguise.
Oh, it's not a disguise. It's like, it's like putting on your work uniform kind of deal.
That's fair. You're like, hey, it's not me. I've changed my name. I have a little mask on. You'll never know. All right, fair enough. So what's the philosophy behind the necklaces then?
The philosophy? What do you mean?
More in the sense of what are you trying to protect against?
The planar faults. Hello, Chimchar.
Hello, son.
The planar faults, especially when they're as big as a lot of the ones we've dealt with, and especially with something as large as the Call, cause a significant amount of corruption to the environment and people around them. As you noticed, I'm sure, with the family who had settled near the Call, and the landscape that was around the Call as well.
Of course.
And keep in mind that while the Call is the biggest, it somehow is able to keep itself under some form of control. So it is expanding from what our preliminary look has seen, but it is much slower than even the other large faults we've witnessed we're expanding, which we've attributed to the fact that it's sentient. It's trying to hold itself back, but it's still expanding. So we have been sort of able to reverse engineer the Aesorite to use it as a deterrent for this corruption temporarily. One shard of Aesorite doesn't hold up forever, but it can at least absorb the negative qualities of the corruption for a significant amount of time, and then we have another ready. Out of character, it's essentially like a hazmat suit.
Yeah, that's more or less what I assumed.
Yeah.
So the necklaces themselves are really just like, I got my little piece of Aesorite on a string.
Yes.
Or is it like... okay.
They're enchanted, engraved Aesorite with very specific runes.
Okay, so like Aesorite by itself wouldn't do the same thing as these necklaces. The necklaces are just like the bougie version.
If anything, unrefined Aesorite mayhaps even strengthen the effects of corruption if it is two pieces of Aesorite from different sources. Like, say, if Miss Brightstone was to bring Aesorite crystals from a different source, nearby Aesorite crystals from the Call.
Okay, so it's different crystal bad.
It depends.
Let me write that down.
It
different
depends.
Crystal bad? Question mark?
It depends, because the Aesorite is a solidified form of planar magic.
Yeah, the water. Yeah.
Yes. And not
the
all of...
sea. I remembered it this time.
Yes. Not all the faults connect with the same plane. So while the Aesorite is the material in between the planes that is now cracked through and solidified, it can be affected by the second plane it's connected to as well. So if they're from different planes, they can react very negative to each other. Sometimes they don't.
In terms of construction here, it's like plane floating on top of astral sea. And then like the rifts are like you punch a little hole in the plane or whatever. So like they're all kind of bleeding together. And then sometimes some of the water from the astral sea get in there. And that's Aesorite. But it can be like you can get like stuff in the water. Like a Gatorade.
Think of it like a bunch of bubbles floating in water. When the bubbles touch too hard, and when they kind of conjoin walls and get stuck together, that's where the planar faults are. Those places where two planes get stuck together. And the Aesorite is the astral sea stuck in between the two.
And someone's just like, Newton's cradling those bad boys right now, basically. But it was a lot more aggressive Newton's cradling those bad boys like 50 years ago or whatever.
Sometimes it's 60 years ago. Sometimes they happen now. Our Nexus is in a very fragile state right now. It's still recovering after the fusion. And also, while we are, I guess you could say, the experts on this topic right now, since as far as we know, we're the only ones studying it, we don't know for sure what's happening in the astral sea. There could be something happening. There could be some creature. There could be some being. I don't know. I don't really know anything about the astral sea. We just know that it's there.
Yes. Well.
So we don't know if this is actively being caused by someone or something, or if it's essentially just, pieces of scrap getting knocked about by the waves and banging into each other.
Yes. Well. I see.
I love Shoshen.
Well, it's like, she obviously would be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what causes that. Am I going to tell you guys? No, I'm good. You figure it out yourself. regardless, with your proposal of checking people for corruption, what does that entail? I understand you've developed your ways to repel it to an extent, but in what way how are you checking people for that?
At this, Fierce, the Fire Genasi, steps forward. So so sometimes it's as simple as, looking at someone and you can tell they're corrupted. Right? Like, you look at Dara, fucking obviously something's up there. Um, Sometimes it's more subtle. You would be able to tell it all. Uh, and sometimes it's just in the beginning stages, which is, of course, the easiest to handle. So I developed, using some powder from Acerite, I developed an alternate version, sort of Detect Magic, uh, which tells me if there is corruption, and if so, what form of Acerite it's from, because sometimes that can help with treating any treatable corruption.
Mm, but you said sometimes, but you said that all of you were corrupted as well, correct? So is that sort of corruption one that you were not able to fix?
Well, not all of us are corrupted. She kind of gestures to herself and Havoc. We, too, are the only ones in this immediate group who are, at least to an untreatable amount. Bulwark and Spectre have gotten corrupted before while helping us with this, but it's always been to a treatable degree. Um, but yes, once the corruption reaches a certain point, there is no reversing it. We've both found sometimes it's you've just had so much in your body. Sometimes it's as simple as it's just been there for so long. It can be a varying uh, amount of reasons. But sometimes we're able to do what we can to make that person's life at least better, at least livable with their condition. Uh, and sometimes they're so far gone, they're not even people anymore. In which
Yes,
case
like
we try
with
to.
the
Well,
boy and
Emmett seems to be somewhere in between, not a person anymore, and very, very corrupted. So we are trying to reason with him as much as possible. And if it comes a time where we still can't reason with him, we will do what we can to give him uh, the best peaceful life that we can. We're not the type of people to make the call to put someone down or something like that. The only time we've ever had to make a call like that is when they're a danger to both themselves and others. When it's to the point that, keeping them calm or contained or anything like that is impossible.
I see.
Mm. With Emmett though, even if we are unable to reason with him, we should be capable of at least keeping him in a comfortable situation. He's strong, but not so much so that we think he'd overwhelm us.
Fair enough. I mean, I assume you're more than capable of dealing with a number of combative threats in the first place.
Yes.
Well, of course, even with the position you're in. Well, did you know Esmond before then?
Us? No, no.
Well, with the way you were talking to him before.
Fierce kind of glances at Havoc, and Havoc shrugs. I don't know the guy. Apparently, I, his brother is somebody I know. Um, but I haven't seen that guy in years. So exciting to hear he's still alive. But I, I didn't know Esmond before.
Hmm. I see. Fair enough. It is interesting that you think that you have such control over a lot of this, I think. You don't
It's less.
look at
Hmm?
you don't look at these things as bigger than you, more as things that you were thinking you can control.
It's not control. It's dealing with it the best we can. There's plenty of faults that we haven't been able to seal or completely close or anything like that. But this is something outside of our power that we're doing the best we can to deal with, both for the sake of others, for the sake of ourselves. But we're doing what we can to deal with the world as it is now. It's not something we can control, just something we can maybe slow a bit.
Mm, well, some things are just out of your hands in the end.
Oh, certainly. Thankfully, so far we've managed to not run into anything like that, but there's of course always that chance. But until then, we
Mm.
intend to do what we can.
Well, certainly.
I do have a question for you, Pup. It's not often I see a member of the Thorn Band playing so domestic. To be clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Just not something I've heard of before.
That's an interesting means of referring to what I'm doing here.
Well, you're staying somewhat long term, it seems, with a settlement.
By my choice.
I figured as much. They don't seem like the type to force you to stay. Your friends back at the settlement, that is.
Well, either way, hardly domesticity.
A
Considering,
form of it.
well, hardly the things otherwise, hardly with things that have been happening around here in the first place.
It's certainly far more domestic than some of the Thorn Band members I've met.
Well, different people
Oh,
are
certainly.
made up of the band itself.
Mm-hmm. They're just usually, they're just usually a bit more hard eyes about that boss of yours, you know?
I am fully aware, yes.
Mm-hmm. Hope you don't mind me saying he's a right asshole, but
Well, you're entitled to your opinion.
thanks. I know.
Regardless, it should be mentioned. I think your means of treating Esmond before was improper for the situation that we find ourselves in. And I think it might be in your best interest to not do so in the future.
So, to recap what happened back there, me and my people showed up with multiple gifts, with no, not looking for anything in return, simply purely trying to help, because we didn't want to see people fall ill. We were immediately met with hostility and continued accusations of ill will, even though we said multiple times that what had happened yesterday was water under the bridge. Alice had returned what she had taken and had apologized, so it was forgotten. When Anytime we tried to explain what we were doing to help people, we were met with constant stiffness and short remarks from Mr. Clousey. The second he realized we were faceless, he was extremely curt with us and accusing us of being violent by nature simply because of what we were brought into against our will as children, even though we had escaped and chose to no longer be part of the conscription. He still continued to insist that violence was part of our nature. I still continued to be polite with him, offered our help multiple times, explained the danger, answered every single question I could to the fullest degree I could. I offered up plenty of information freely of my own accord, and was met with secrets and lies. And when I explained multiple times the danger of Alice keeping unrefined acerite in the settlement around people who could already be corrupted even, never mind the fact that it's acerite from a different source, which makes it even more dangerous, I was still met with curtness and veiled threats from your companions. So tell me, how am I the one in the wrong here, when I did everything I could to help, to be as polite and professional as possible, and was met with constant threats?
I do not mean to imply the problems are only your own. I mean, considering the fact that I decided to approach you individually, it is obvious that I wanted to cut down on external issues.
Well, I was polite enough with your leader. I did what I could. And in the end, when he was still refusing to listen, insisting that we were apparently awful people just because we were faceless, just because of what, again, we were brought into against our will, he continued to be rude about it. So eventually I responded in turn, made it clear that I thought if this settlement was going to thrive and be healthy, that it needed a new leader. And then we left. I didn't make any threats of violence, unlike other people. So, Shoshen, while I appreciate what you're trying to do here, maybe consider the fact that I'm trying to protect people. If your little group wants to, learn about the Acerite, eventually be in charge of controlling the fault yourself, keeping it safe, watching over the wards, that's totally fine with me. I offered multiple times to teach anyone who wanted how to take care of the fault. Then we wouldn't even have to stay here. We would just stay here to make sure it was secure, then leave you all to your business. But no, I was still met with threats. So, if your leader isn't somebody who will take the safety of everyone else around him into account, then I will do what needs to be done to make sure innocents are protected. Does that make sense?
Your authority is above anyone else's.
Oh, my authority isn't above his. He's certainly the leader of your settlement, and your settlement is, of course, welcome to put anyone they want in charge. I'm not the leader of your settlement. But I think we all here, right now, and even back in that meeting we just had, can agree that me and my group are the ones who know the most about the fault. Again, I've offered multiple times to teach anyone who wants everything we know about the faults. And then we would be on even playing fields, of course. But until then, I'm the one who not only knows all the negative effects that can come with this, but I've also experienced it myself, Shoshen. I could die any minute from further corruption, and yet I'm willingly spending my time here to help people, to keep them from getting sick, and from suffering, and from dying. So maybe I have some authority, But it's really only in that my group knows more about the faults than all of you. You're welcome to learn more. But until then, we'll do what we have to do to keep people safe from these faults.
Well, if you have such issue with how things are put forth in your realm here, then why don't you simply leave?
I'm not going to abandon... I've explained this many times. I'm not going to abandon people to a horrible, slow death, to letting this land grow more and more infected, to letting this apparently sentient being continue to suffer in that it is unintentionally hurting people. If you all want to pack up and move away, that's fine. I understand that could be hard if you don't want to do that. I completely respect that. But until the call is under control and safe, we're going to be here. And probably even after that, because a fall this large and this powerful is going to need constant upkeep. If you all want to learn how to do that so we can leave, that's fine. But that takes time. It took us decades.
I understand. Well, regardless. It's difficult, but if you are to stay around here, it might be best to not have such a hostile relationship with each other between our groups.
I get that, but I'm not the one who started the hostility. And I'm not a politics person. So if your politician wants to figure things out, he can do that. I'm not one to hold grudges. If the hostility is stopped, I don't even want or need an apology or anything like that. If the hostility is stopped and we can come to an agreement to work together for the betterment of everyone, including you guys, that's fine with me. Water under the bridge. I'm not one to hold a grudge, unlike some people apparently.
I seem to recall some movements within the pit in regards to Erland in the past.
Oh yeah, that's because he purposely fucked me over.
Yes.
That's less about a grudge and more about somebody turning their back on a promise they made. But that's a bit more in detail than what I've got going on with your little group now, isn't it?
Yes, well, still a cross you have borne to this moment, is it not?
Say again, Ned?
Still a cross you have borne to this moment, is it not?
Oh, yes. Because I put in, not even myself, my people put in work and sweat into Erland, into finding what they needed us to find, into doing them all of these little favors. And this is how they've repaid us. You have to understand, this isn't as simple as, oh, a grudge. This is one of my own, one of my people turning against their friends for reasons that frankly could have been handled a whole lot better, and I would have been way more agreeable to it.
Well,
I think you can understand there's a bit of a difference in intensity between me having a disagreement with a group of strangers and then me getting stabbed in the back by what I thought was a close friend.
well, such is both misunderstandings, is it not?
Sure.
Well, you seem to be very confident in what you have created.
I'm confident that we're doing our best. And right now, our best is apparently all that's out there trying to fix these faults, so until there's other people who are also trying this, we're apparently the only ones.
I see. Perhaps you two are resigned to domesticity at this point, then.
I hardly think traveling the world is domesticity. But sure.
You said yourself you'll be here for a bit.
Maybe
Is
so.
it not the same case?
I suppose so. I could do with a break. Kick my feet up, hang around here a few years.
Well. Then I'll watch how it goes.
I'll be interested to hear your opinion. Have a good day, Shoshen. Watch yourself, and if you'd like, all of that, and she kind of gestures in your direction, handled. Like I said, Fierce has ways of treating the corruption. She's going to turn and start to walk away.
Alright, well, that's fine, I guess. That's alright. Well. That's fine. Literally me the whole time. She's like, yeah, we don't decide whether people live or die. Shoshin like, oh boy. Yeah, I don't know anyone that does that. That's insane.
She didn't say that they wouldn't heal you guys.
She's fine. She's good. We're all right here. She's like, wow, don't. It was like aggressive. It was like aggressively neutral. Like, okay, well, I get like all these other people have like issues with these people, but it's fine. I'll give them another chance. And it's like, all right, it's going fine. And she's like, yeah, dog. What are you doing hanging around here? It's like,
here.
Okay.
Do you want to roll me a passive insight check? I was expecting you to ask to roll that or something at any point, but no.
Oh, yeah, I didn't want to roll. I didn't want to vibe check her. I forgot if I did. Or
you can do a retroactive insight about that moment specifically, because there is something there.
15.
50. Oh, PogChamp. So, Shoshen, whenever you've used your special sight, there is this phantom sensation that kind of sweeps over you of a bunch of eyes that are your own, but it's multiple, and you can almost feel them looking in different directions, taking in different things, each of them absorbing different information. It's this kind of, a bit off-putting, but also kind of familiar sensation because you recognize it as yourself.
Yeah.
In that moment, right before she not only called you a pup, but recognized that you were of the Thorn Band, even though you're not really wearing anything obvious of the Thorn Band.
No, I don't think she really does that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I remember I had asked you once if you wore their symbol, and you had said no. That sensation of eyes watching had briefly flickered in, but they weren't yours. It was Technicolor eyes that were there for but a blink of the eye, and you could swear you could see through the feline mask to see glowing yellow pupils.
Oh, no.
So maybe you're not the only one with
like
a special
bad
kind
yellow?
of sight.
Like a yucky
no,
yellow?
No, like a feline yellow. No, like a feline yellow. Like slitted and everything.
That's fair. Whenever it's like, oh yeah, it's orange. I'm like, oh, like a bad orange? Like a bad orange for me?
No.
That's why every time it's like orange.
Specifically, she didn't call you pup to like call out your age or something like that. She was referring to your heritage.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I assumed. It was like, that's not ideal.
And you Nedgem may not remember, but she was doing it a lot, both in the encounter with Emmett and also with you guys when you were meeting in the settlement, she uses like nicknames for people a lot. So it's up to you if you want to take it as an insult, but she, at least to what you've seen, hasn't been doing it as an insult to other people.
That's fair. I think Shoshu would be like, "You're calling me a dog? Derogatory? This is so sad." It's not a derogatory dog.
She was just saying, "I see you, heart." But yeah.
That.
Other than that, the insight check, she was telling her whole ass truth the entire time.
I didn't think she would be lying to Shoshin really, because she just is chilling. So got hate crime by Havoc. This is so sad.
She called you a poodle.
No. This is so sad. Her getting increasingly more elaborate insults. Yeah, you crusty little dog. You crusty little white dog. Shoshin crying in the background. No, I'm not.
With that like voice effect on it as well that makes the voice all shaky.
Yeah. Crying in the club. My God.